Uh, Welcome back. Yeah, so, and by the way, if you're just joining me for the first time tonight, then my welcome back is meant for the lovely folks who were in the first segment of tonight's broadcast, uh, to which I'd like to shame myself. I was in my sauna and I had an inkling that my phones were going to overheat, broadcast going to shut down. So that goes back to if you were on earlier, I was saying tonight's episode is brought to you by shame. So I'd like to shame myself for one of my brighter moments of trying to broadcast from inside of a sauna. Even though the better part of me, maybe not the better part, but the part of me who's like more intelligent, knew the phones were going to shut down. So nonetheless, if you were on before, my apologies for the interruption. I have since showered off from my sexy sauna sweat, or at least I would like you to think that I showered off from my sexy sauna sweat. And we're just going to dive right into where we left off, which means I'm going to pretend I know where we left off. Which means, oh yeah, well, let's recap, not the whole thing, but the most important part, which was, wow, that's an interesting way I talk. Like I stopped talking right as I was going to point my finger to like emphasize what I was about to say. That's me being quick on my feet. It's really a talent. You can't train that. You're either born with it or you're not. But nonetheless, oh, by the way, this is a Purposeful Pointlessness episode 11. What I was saying is, have you watched my new, what's it called? A video, but what's the video called? New Year's resolution video. If people were honest about their resolutions. If you haven't, and sticking with the theme of tonight, I think it's just because of the stars' alignment, then shame on you. And if you haven't watched it, then still shame on you. But you're welcome to check that out. It's on my page. And now, let's get into my highs, my lows, my favorites, my least favorites. I was going to do a dramatic clap there, but man, that would annoy me if I was watching someone else on video and they did a dramatic clap. It would almost annoy me as much as someone talking with their chin or their hand on their chin. So every time they talk, the table moves and therefore the camera moves. It would almost annoy me that much. I don't even know what the hell I was going to say, and it doesn't even matter. I'm not even convinced anybody's watching this. Like, I see a bunch of people on board and comments coming in and hearts and all that cool stuff. But what if that's just the Illuminati plotting against me, trying to make me think that there's people on live watching? You're not going to fool me tonight, Illuminati. So my 2016, what we're doing tonight is listening to me talk out loud about it. So starting off with a question I'd like to ask myself. JP, yeah? What was your low point of 2016? Ooh, now that's a great question. So my low point of 2016, I would probably say, and there's purpose to it and all those disclaimers, but let me be real for a second. Probably my low point of, sound like I was going through puberty just then. Did you hear that? Probably my low point of 2016 was very early February, and my longtime girlfriend, Deanna, and I broke up. Yeah. Let the sympathy start rolling in. Fill my inner victim with your sorrows. Thank you. Thank you. I feel significant from my victimhood. So yeah, we were in it. We were together, I think, 2.5 years. And from my point of view, it was a relatively kind of unexpected / surprise breakup. And man, that was hard to deal with. It was. We lived together, and it's the one thing to like say the words like, okay, now we're broken up. But then when it comes to her moving out, it's like, wow, now it's getting real, as they say in the streets. It got real. So yeah, that was a huge transition for me, and it definitely, yeah, it was a low point. Like, what else can I say? It was a low point, and I'm happy to say that it was a low point. Happy to say it was painful, because I can sit here and rationalize in my head, and I think there's truth to the rationalizations that happen in my head and the rationalizations that happen in my heart. That the breakup was purposeful. It was kind of like, I can look at it as like, okay, it serves us well to break up. Like, we've done a bunch of stuff. We've tried relationship coaching, and they just couldn't fix her. I'm just kidding. So, yeah, in spite of my ability to rationalize that the breakup was for the greater good of both her and I in our relationship, it's nice to not just be, I don't know, locked away behind the iron curtain of those rationalizations, but to be able to feel my heart and say, like, that was a very sad time. And for a time, I didn't know if I'd stay in Charleston. I had to sit around I didn't sit around, but I had to just sit with, per the advice of a wise man, a great friend of mine named Paul Samuel Dolman, author of basically every book under the sun. But he said, JP, why don't you just not let yourself not know for 3 months whether or not you're going to stay living in Charleston? Because I'm like, yeah, does Charleston feel like home without the relationship? Because I moved from San Diego, North County, San Diego to be specific, to Charleston because of the relationship. Charleston is where she was from and is from. So wise man Paul said, JP, you guys just broke up. Don't do yourself the injustice by trying to figure this out now. Just don't know for a couple months, a few months, and that's going to be okay. And man, that was great advice. It really was. So anyway, and during that time, I went to Australia for about a month. I was going to be going there anyway, but that was a nice way for me to sort of come back and then resensitize to how does this place feel to me without the relationship. And ultimately, it's like, yeah, Charleston feels like home without the relationship. So the point of that, or the low point, is it was very unsettling beyond just the breakup of me and this lovely lady, but like, yeah, the earth feels like it's rattling under my feet. I don't know where to call home. But after 3 months, I knew where to call home, which is my home, still my home. And I am happy to say, maybe I shouldn't be happy. Will you feel sorry for me as much if I have something to be happy about? Yeah, my inner victim just wants you to feel sorry for me. I've never been happy this whole year. And I have great, exciting plans to never be happy again for the rest of my life. Can you believe some of us actually live like that? For God's sakes, what's wrong with humanity? It's the fault of the election, JP. Was it? And what I am happy to say is, I would say Deanna and I, the ex-girlfriend, we're great friends. I'm very grateful to say that we're great friends. And I would dare say, like, what if it's possible we had to break up to save our relationship, let our relationship transition into a different form? Just like you might throw a rotten apple in the backyard and it composts. In that life of the apple, the composting process is it getting transitioned into a different form. So, Deanna, if you're watching this, I've just analogized which I didn't know was a word until I just said it. I've just analogized our relationship to a rotten apple. And now our relationship is compost. Our friendship is compost. And you wonder why she broke up with me. Yeah, it's like, JP, you are enchanting. I mean, I would like to be your next rotten apple, JP. Or wow, even if I was compost to you, JP, that would just make me feel like a princess who's over the age of 18. I guess princesses can be kind of young, can't they? Can a little child... So if there's like a 3-year-old girl child, which I guess would be a daughter if I'm trying to be efficient with words. So a 3-year-old girl child of the king and queen, is she still a princess? Because I want to make it clear, as I'm analogizing this analogy about the other analogy, the princess that I'm talking about is definitely over the age of 18, probably over the age of 30, maybe even over the age of 40. Maybe she's 80, I don't know. Maybe her parents knew a lot about longevity. I don't know. Maybe they ate a lot of collagen. I don't know. Maybe they only drank alkaline water. I don't know. A rotten apple. Man, I would break up with me too. I do not fault Deanna. And it kind of became mutual, but yeah, she brought it up, and it's just me trying to be a victim again. She broke up with me. Poor me. So yeah, that was a low point. And in addition to like the happy point I'm sharing about the low point, it's like that low point is also a high point. Like in the moment, like for the few months surrounding the February breakup, that was a low point. But then like after, that's when like I would call it the blessings of it started to happen, or at least me realizing the blessings. It wasn't at all like in my head. Yeah, I was. But I'm going to pretend like I wasn't just in my head thinking like, okay, we just broke up. What's the high point of this? It's like, yeah, maybe I'd be able to guess, but it wouldn't have been an embodied realization. So, yeah, nonetheless, I think the high point for me is being out of the relationship. I'm giving myself more permission to be me, whoever the hell that stranger is, instead of trying to like live this never-ending mission impossible of trying to be who I think she wants me to be, even though I could never be it, and it would just create more conflict the more I would try to be who she wanted me to be. I don't know what she would say. I would guess she'd say, yeah, JP, it would piss me off because you weren't yourself trying to be who you thought I wanted you to be. I'd be like, yeah, I felt not good enough. The more I couldn't be who you wanted me to be, so I would try more. God help us all. You could be my next rotten apple. I'm not on dating sites and apps, aside from this one. But if I was, my profile, like whatever you enter, I don't even know. Like in your profile, just wherever you're supposed to enter your lines of seduction, where you basically hide 99% about yourself and just try and present the highlight reel in that one sentence or that one paragraph. So mine would be, I'd like you to be a rotten apple in my life. And if things progress well, you might even be compost. You would be analogous to poop. So yeah, and then moving along, as I hear myself talk more about my 2016 reflections, a high point for me would probably be right now. I would say right now things are moving in my life probably with more grace than I've really ever had, or at least that I'm at least aware of more grace now. Maybe there's always been this amount of grace. But I just feel like a continuous, satisfying flow of creativity. I feel a continuous flow of inspiration. And, I've brought on the right team of people around me to sort of like help me facilitate me swimming in that flow of inspiration and creativity quite a bit. Whereas before, like, I would say, yeah, definitely earlier this year, I mean, probably the whole first half of 2016 and in previous years, I'd have to fight to have creative time. I would fight to what the hell am I saying? I would have to fight to have time to follow my inspiration because I just barricaded me in. I am new at the English language tonight. So I have myself barricaded in with like all these tasks that I was doing, kind of mostly business tasks. I don't know why I do air quotes, like they were just business tasks that desperately needed to be delegated. But I wasn't delegating. So, yeah, which by the way, let's be a little bit grateful here, JP. That brings me into another high point. And if I was into classifying things, I would classify myself as a person who's into classifying things. I would classify this next point to be... That was an annoying sound I just made with my mouth. Like I just irritated myself. This would be who I am most grateful for in 2016. You ready? Because everybody in my life, except for one person, will resent me now. But I would really say who I'm most grateful for in my life would be my lovely, I guess her official job title is executive assistant. I kind of think it's like guardian angel executive assistant Karen. Karen, you know who you are, and I'm going to use just your first name for reasons so that everybody doesn't know exactly who you are. Classified. I'll explain later. Man, she has been a pure blessing in my life. She came on board. She's been a great friend of mine for 10 years, maybe longer than that. And then just this past summer started working with me as, I guess, some would call my executive assistant. I would say, yeah, she's my guardian angel. So she has brought more freaking levity into my life than... what has levity in it? I guess like a balloon, like a helium balloon has levity. It's like most things on Earth have gravity. So helium... hydrogen, I think, is sort of levitational. So Karen's brought like a crap load of levity into my life. So yeah, thank you to Karen. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sitting here again next year. I'm like, yeah, and the person who I'm grateful for here for all of 2017 is still Karen. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't want her to get too full of herself. So we're not handing that award out for 2017 yet, Karen. But you win the award for 2016. So let's get into some other stuff. My favorite book of 2016, drum roll, Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Man, look how thick this book is. If you don't judge a book by its cover, judge a book by its thickness. But this book, you could probably accurately say it has over 50 lifetimes of wisdom in it. I won't take a lot of time to explain the book other than to simply say there are a number of sort of, I would call them wisdom contributors that Tim Ferriss has brought into this book. A lot of that wisdom is distilled from guests that Tim Ferriss has had on his podcast. The guests, the word guest and Jeff are not that closely related. And I wonder about myself, / I'm slightly concerned about myself, why my synaptic connections would bring up the word Jeff when I'm trying to say the word guest. I don't know. Are there any neurosurgeons on? If you're a neurosurgeon, let me know which part of my brain to cut in order to heal this. So a lot of the wisdom is distilled down from guests that Tim Ferriss has had on his podcast. Guests like Jamie Foxx, Tony Robbins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then like all these highly successful people in terms of like, and I mean two things by successful. Some are very successful in terms of like being creative or stuff in business. Creative stuff excites me more. And others are highly successful in terms of like inner fulfillment. And then other guests are highly successful in terms of both like outer achievement and inner fulfillment. So, and there's additional stuff that Tim Ferriss has brought into this book. So you literally have, it's well over 50. It's actually a distillation of over 200 guests, I believe he's had on his podcast, thereabouts. So that's like, wow, quite a gift for, I think I paid $16 for this book. Highly recommend it. And by the way, Tim Ferriss, thank you for being a gift to the world and sharing your gift of yourself to the world. If that's my favorite book of 2016, which by the way, if you're just joining us, talking about Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, just released earlier this month. Now let's jump to my favorite musician of the year. You ready? It's not you. I promise. I wish it was me. I'd like to start taking guitar lessons, and by I'd like to, I mean I am going to start taking guitar lessons, whatever. A friend of mine in town, Jason, is a guitar lesson teacher, so guess what that means? I already got myself a guitar lesson teacher. What's left is for me to have a lesson. So, favorite musician of 2016, Dustin Thomas. If you don't know of him, shame on you, because this episode is brought to you by Shame, the most renewable emotional resource in humankind. Shame. Dustin Thomas, he is a soulful singer. You can check him out. His website is lovedustinthomas.com. He's got music on there you can download. He's got music on there you can listen to for free. And I happened to meet Dustin Thomas in Kauai early 2016, January 2016. And that was a thrill because I've been a fan of Dustin's music for a long time. And during this year, met him earlier this year. Over the course of this year, Dustin has become what I can say is honestly a dear friend. And becoming a dear friends with someone who I've just been a fan of in a very respectful way, not like a fan of he's like, I think he's so much better than me. No, to me, that's actually a field of disrespect. But just being a straight up fan of Dustin Thomas's music for a while, it's just like a dream. Wow, now I'm friends with this beautiful human being who's so much more than just a singer. So I would definitely invite you to check out lovedustinthomas.com. He's also on Facebook, and I think everybody's on Facebook. My dad's on Facebook, finally. You're actually not able to send my dad friend requests. I don't think you can. He wanted to get on Facebook just so he could watch the videos that I put out on Facebook. But at least he's on Facebook. God forbid he lived his life without being on Facebook. I will honorable mention to Dave Matthews. Man, his music has just meant so much. I just feel, I feel passion when I listen to Dave Matthews. I feel connection when I listen to Dustin Thomas. And I feel passion when I listen to Dave Matthews. Had a chance to see him in concert in Charleston this year with my lovely friend slash assistant slash guardian angel Karen. It was a very special experience. So how could I not mention Dave Matthews? Do you like Dave Matthews? I think Dave Matthews is like a fine wine. He gets better with age. I think he and his band have been touring now for 25 years. And in my opinion, they are just getting better. Their old stuff, love it. Their new stuff, love it. I can't say that I don't know if I can say that about any other musician. Maybe I just don't know enough other musicians. Whatever. By the way, I like the analogy. He's like a fine wine. I don't drink fine wine. I drink usually 15, but wine that's between $9 and $15. Is that fine wine? Putting that in perspective, some people, especially in other countries, they don't even make $9 to $15 in a day. Some people not even a week, and I'm sure some people not even a month in some countries, in some situations, which reminds me, an experience I've had in 2016 is I've started just feel like I'm taking something like from my heart, something that's genuinely altruistic, and now my ego's going to start bragging about it. I hope that's not the case, but nonetheless, I do want to mention, as we're here in our conversation, 2016, I've started giving. And I'm not talking about like I'll give a helping hand to a friend, like help them pick up a box, like whatever friends do for each other. Or like helping people in like I'm here and let me put in effort. But giving in the sense of like literally giving money to causes. That is something, I would do it maybe a little bit here or there in years past, but it's become like a more of a substantial thing now. And from a selfish perspective of being selfless and giving, it feels good. Like, please know there's a side of being selfless to celebrate. Wait, what was I saying? No, there's a side of being selfless that's selfish. And I think that can be celebrated. Yeah, I said it right that time. And I think it should be celebrated. Like there's like a dopamine rush, I'd imagine. And like cool emotions you feel. Like I feel happiness. I feel grateful when I have the opportunity to give, as weird as that might sound. And to me, those like selfish oriented feelings, and they're selfish because they're just found within self. I don't necessarily mean selfish in a bad sense, but they're a beautiful experience. So given that that's something that I'm personally grateful for and I really value in my 2016 experience, which I'm going to call giving a high point in 2016, I would invite you to consider giving what you can. Probably not more than you can, but giving what you can. And I would also dare challenge a mindset that says, I don't have anything to give. I don't buy that. I'd ask you to consider, what do you have to give? Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's more money than we feel comfortable giving, because I think a lot of us, including parts of me, have a poverty conscious mindset where we think there's not enough money to go around, and therefore we start living that prophecy that we've created for ourselves. And I think there's certainly on the other side, there's something to be said. Like, use discernment, know what's appropriate for you to give or not. But also, I don't think the best discernment is the poverty consciousness voice that I think lives inside of all people to some degree. So maybe instead of letting the poverty consciousness voice in gremlin inside determine what we give or how much we give, or even if we give, what if we let our heart just be the one to decide what and how much we give? It's funny. I heard a friend of mine, Daniel Eisman, recently say, I think he was doing a Facebook Live video, and he said people tend to see what they're looking for, and what they're looking for is usually themselves. Let me say it again. I wish I was a preacher and I'd always say that. Let me say it again after I say something that I like. People tend to see what they're looking for, and what they're usually looking for is themselves. And with that said, I do think, just plugging this little power supply into one of these guys, I tend to think like when we're looking through the scope of our life called our eyes, through the perspective of our poverty consciousness gremlin inside, what we're looking for is truly ourself. And by truly ourself, I mean kind of like truly falsely ourself. We're looking for the part of us that's dominant, looking for the part of us that's looking through our eyes. A lovely quote I love, just be redundant with my lack of vocabulary tonight, is St. Francis of Assisi, who says, what you're looking for is what's looking. So the part of you that's looking through your eyes, if it's the poverty consciousness mindset, then I would dare say that's what you find. And not only is that what you find, but that is also what that part of you is looking for. It's just looking for itself. So nonetheless, if we're in a poverty consciousness mindset, we'll be really good at seeing essentially lack and limitations, even if they're not there. Can I get an amen? Say it again, JP. People tend to, now I've confused myself. People tend to see what they're looking for, and what they're looking for is themselves. Daniel Eisenman, ladies and gentlemen, I love that thought. It'd be funny if, he heard me say that once, then he repeated it, and then I forgot that I said it, and I'm like, oh, Daniel, that's a great quote. And I hear him say what maybe I originally said. I don't think that's the case with this quote, but I'm just here amusing myself. I'm just riffing. Are you okay with that? I think you're okay with that. Oh, by the way, I have a Dustin Thomas shirt on. This is the drawing, I believe, off of one of his album covers called The Lions Are Coming. How serendipitous. Just talking about Dustin Thomas a few minutes ago. And if you just tuned in, who's my favorite musician of 2016? You missed it. But the answer is Dustin Thomas, so I guess you just found the answer that you missed. Moving along, JP. Favorite trip of 2016. Have you taken 2 trips in 2016? If you haven't, that's maybe a challenge. One of the benefits I find of traveling is the discomfort that it brings up. I think when we're physically traveling to different places, especially places we've never been before, I think inside we go to places within ourselves that we haven't been before. We make connections to new parts of us that maybe we haven't really known before. Maybe we haven't had the feeling experience of them. Maybe we haven't had the perspective experience of them. And I think when we're in a new place, literally, yes, we're in a new place, But that new place symbolizes something to us. And I think what a symbol is it's something that we're projecting onto. And what are we projecting onto it? An aspect of ourselves. And if it's a new symbol that we haven't seen before, then guess what? There's a possibility we're going to project a new aspect of ourselves. And it's not, of course, not a new aspect of ourselves. It's just new to us if we're now becoming aware of it. It's been there all along. But it's maybe a new awareness of an old aspect of self, dare I say. And traveling can be triggering. That's why I think traveling is so good at getting us in touch with old aspects of ourselves with a new awareness. So we're newly aware of these aspects of ourselves. So maybe travel is maybe not the most powerful way, but I think it is a powerful way to get to know ourselves. So where was I going with that? If I pretend I was going to go somewhere with that, and that would be consider going somewhere. If that's not your normal cup of tea, well, screw your normal cup of tea. Have some abnormal tea in an abnormal teacup. In fact, what if you drank tea out of a wine glass? Don't drink tea out of a teacup. This is all metaphors. I think it's in the Bible. I don't think so. Maybe. I haven't read the Bible. How presumptuous of me to think what I just said isn't in the Bible. I don't know. Maybe it is. Don Miguel Ruiz in the Four Agreements would say, JP, don't make assumptions. Don't assume that you're not just channeling biblical wisdom. Okay, Don. I won't make assumptions anymore. From now on, I assume I should not make any more assumptions. I'm off to a good start. Today's episode is brought to us by shame. You already knew that. But shame on you for being a know-it-all. Shame. By the way, just another honorable mention book, not from 2016. I know when I read it a handful of years ago. Healing the Shame That Binds You by the late John Bradshaw. Man, as we're talking about the sponsor of shame tonight. Man, if you're like, what shame? What's that all about, JP? It probably means you're a fish swimming in water. There's so much of it. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You can't see, smell, hear, taste, feel it. You can't dance to the rhythm of it because it's the only rhythm that you've ever known. It's not the only rhythm you've ever known, but it may be sort of like an omniscient presence in your life. By the way, I might have said this a few episodes ago. It doesn't even matter because I'm about to say it again. In Healing the Shame That Binds You, John Bradshaw references other people. So I'm referencing a person who's referencing other people. So you know it's either got to be true or it's just so false because it's absolutely lost in translation. Take your pick. So he references these other people that suggest the average person experiences 25,000 hours worth of shame in their childhood. Whoa. What's that do for us? Or what's that do against us? Or what's that give us an opportunity on? Is that how you say that? What's that give us an opportunity on? No. What's that provide an opportunity for? You'll have to read the book to find out. Let's see. I wrote a few notes here about highs and lows, just topics. We got, let's be a little more self-centered here, JP. My favorite ultra-spiritual video, and also my least favorite ultra-spiritual video. Let's be dramatic. Let's start with my least favorite ultra-spiritual video of 2016. You ready for it? I'm going to shame myself. The Tao of the Man Bun. Yeah. I love the topic, and I love, a fair bit of the video. But if I had to do it over again, I would do aspects of that video differently. I would definitely do my man bun in that video differently. I would do it much more on top. It was much more just in the back in that video. And the interesting thing is, I didn't know how to do a man bun. I think that's why it was in the back, and it wasn't a good man bun for the man bun video. Man, it's like what the hell's that like? What's something I don't know how to do? Here I am being arrogant, like really straining hard to think of something I don't know how to do. Like, yes, I know how to do almost everything, and it's a strain to think of something I don't know how to do. So it's like if I was putting out a hockey video, a hockey instructional video, like how to play hockey. You know, rugby, like I know about. So I don't understand the rules of rugby. So it's like if I was putting out an instructional video on how to play rugby and I didn't know how to play rugby, that's what it was, me, having my makeshift man bun in the man bun video. So I would have done my man bun different in the video, and I would have used a different camera lens. That was the first video I used with my new camera. First video I did with my new camera. I used my camera on it. JP, do you talk correctly? Yeah, but I do want to, I was happy with a lot of the content of the videos. So, but anyway, that was my least favorite ultra spiritual video of the year. My favorite ultra spiritual video of 2016, I'm self-absorbed enough. I would say that I loved a lot of them. Yet I'm going to have to say the video I did on Byron Bay. What did I call that? Maybe it was just Byron Bay. Oh, it was called The Most Spiritual Place on Earth. No. It was called Byron Bay, the most spiritual place on earth. So if you don't know about Byron Bay, then you're probably a normal person. And if you do know about Byron Bay, you are probably just an absolute weirdo, and I love you. And if you're normal, I love you too. I don't know. Maybe I don't love you. We'll have to get to know each other. You might be my next rotten apple. So Byron Bay, Australia, it is an absolute, just new age, dreadlocked, just, what's the word I'm looking for? Dramatically spiritual community near the Gold Coast in Australia. I think it is in the Gold Coast. No? It's technically in New South Wales, like about as north as you can get in New South Wales, Australia. So anyway, I got a splashback in my eyes. Why was that my favorite video? It was probably the video with the least wide appeal, because it was a video for basically a relatively small community that's just so unique. And it's got such a spiritual vibe to it, such a spiritual community and health consciousness, that I wanted to make a video about it. And it happened to be that I was going to be going to Byron Bay. So I decided to make a video about it. And I think all of that makes it like such like a very unviewed video. That's also exactly one of the reasons why it was one of my favorite videos of the year, because it felt very intimate. Doing this video about this relatively small community of people. So yeah, it just, it was near and dear to my creative heart. Yeah, I think I'm done talking about my videos for now. What was my favorite movie of the year, JP? Do you have one? You know, I didn't go to a movie theater once this whole year. I watched a lot of movies on airplanes, some on Netflix. I don't know if I have a favorite movie of 2016. I'm going to say Wolf of Wall Street. And you're going to say, JP, you idiot, that came out like 3 years ago. I'm going to say, well, I watched it in 2016. In other years previous, too. But that is such a good movie. I watched it in 2016, so I'm going to have to slide that one in as my answer for my favorite movie that I watched in 2016. But I will give you a little bit more legit response for my least favorite movie that came out in 2016. And that movie, and it breaks my heart to say it's my least favorite movie of 2016. Batman versus Superman. I grew up a die-hard Batman and Superman enthusiast. I remember on my 5th birthday, my mom made me a birthday cake like in the shape of Batman. Toxic blue and gray and yellow and black food coloring and all. And I had all the action figures, comic books. I'd sit on my grandmother's lap, my grandma Sears, and she'd read me these little Batman and Superman comic books. And when she was reading them, nose is getting stuffed up. I'd always, like if it was a Batman comic book, I would always sit there holding my Batman guy while she was reading. Or if it was a Superman comic book, I'd have my Superman guy as Grandma would read. I'd call her Nana. That's what we called her, Nana. So my Nana is very sweet memories. I hope I never forget. Unless, I guess, yeah. You know, I don't think the memories go anywhere. I think sometimes we can forget the memory, but I think our memories always remember us. So I do believe that memory will always be with me, and I just hope I remember to remember the memory. So where I was going with that is, it breaks my heart. I have to sit here and say that Batman versus Superman, man, that movie disappointed me. Pessimistic JP coming at you. Purposeful, pointless, what do I call these again? The Purposeful Pointlessness, episode 11. We're going for a record of pessimism. And actually, I heard a lot of people just thought relatively poorly of that movie. Here, three things I disliked about that movie. Did you see it? If you did, comment in. What do you think of Batman versus Superman? Am I the only one? So, first, let's start with what I liked about it. My favorite part of it is I guess you'd call him an acquaintance. His name is Vikram Gandhi. I saw him in the movie. Like, wow, I didn't know he was going to be in the movie. I was on a flight, I think, to Australia here a couple months ago. I was like, here's Vikram. Vikram Gandhi, by the way, he was the guy who did the documentary called Kumare, and he was Kumare. And anyway, I had a chance to do some stage time and get to know him at, where was that? That was Symbiosis Gathering in Northern California. So like a big spirit festival. So anyway, long story short, thrilled to see him in the movie. But then, what I like least about it. First off, I felt, as a moviegoer, my intelligence was insulted. So it's like, okay, do you realize Batman is immortal? Not immortal, but he's a mortal. That's the whole premise of his character. And it kind of like makes him more interesting, in my opinion. And the fact that he's got darkness, that's pretty interesting too. So the whole premise of his character is like he's a normal man. Like, yeah, he's smart, and yeah, he's kind of in good shape and more athletic than the average bear, if you will. But there was a scene like when he and Superman started fighting. Like spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil the crappy part for you. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then, I don't know, keep listening and don't get what you want. So this actually has it doesn't give away the plot. I don't even know if there was a plot. But it does give away sort of like, a part I probably shouldn't give away, but screw it. YOLO. I don't care about, excuse me, I don't care about giving away the plots of the movies. YOLO. It seems like a good, legitimate, like, what's it? Good, legitimate rationalization to not give a crap about giving away spoilers. So anyway, they're fighting. Like, I get it. Like, okay, Superman is weakened because Batman, like, stabs him with, like, shreds of kryptonite. It's kind of mean of you, Batman. So I get the premise. Superman was weak. I have no problem with that. You might be sitting there saying, JP, it sounds like you have a problem with that. You are wrong. I have no problem with that. Superman was weak. That makes sense. Kryptonite. But here's where I felt insulted. My moviegoer intelligence was insulted. It's like, Superman's weak. Batman's got him, like, tied up or something. And Batman starts, like, swinging him around. Just like if I had a stuffed animal tied to a rope, like one of Zephyr's stuffed animals. Let's make it realistic. It's a stuffed animal I actually have. And I'm just swinging this stuffed animal over my head. That's what Batman was doing to Superman. It's like, that's out of character for the character of Batman. And to my very core, deep inside in my heart, 5-year-old little JP, who is sitting there on Nana's knee, being read a Batman comic book, holding his Batman figure, all of that programming. Oh, sweet little boy, little carrot-topped JP, is inside, pardon my language, saying, this is bullshit. I know the truth about Batman. Grandma's teaching me the truth about Batman right here. And I'm freaking holding Batman. I know the truth about Batman, and this is not the truth about Batman. This is out of character for the character of Batman. You go to hell. Who made that movie? Was it Zack Snyder? You go to hell, Zack Snyder. Now, that's not me saying that. There's disclaimers. I'm, of course, a spiritual being who wants nothing but love and light for everybody. Namaste. But 5-year-old little JP is saying, go to hell, Zack Snyder. Where do you get off? Where do you get the nerve? Thinking I'm so stupid that I'll temporarily forget that Batman is supposed to have the strength of a normal man. And now you're giving him superhuman strength? You go right to hell. It's like I'm not even going to get mad at 5-year-old JP for saying hell. In fact, I would maybe reprimand him for not using the F word towards Zack Snyder. It's like, Zack Snyder, never met the guy, being so mean to him. It's like, I'm not being mean to him. It's 5-year-old JP being brutally mean to Zack Snyder. Like, Zack, I'm sorry. He's just a kid. He's got a temper. You know, he's pretty attached to Batman, pretty attached to his grandma, his Nana, who's teaching him about Batman. You know, I'm sorry, Zack, for all of the probably hundreds of thousands of hours of Batman history that's existed in this world through TV shows, other Batman movies that are better than yours, comic books. So for all of those hundreds of thousands of Batman hours of history, your 2 hours of Batman futurism somehow violates that whole historical premise of Batman. So I'm sorry, little 5-year-old JP has a temper about that. He's attached to the Batman history. I wish I could control him, but I can't. Luckily, it's not me saying it, Zach. It's 5-year-old JP. Okay, it's not me. You're a great guy. You're trying. So anyway, that bothered me. Have I beaten that dead horse to death yet? It's pretty close, hasn't it? And then, what was another part? I got a little carried away there. But that was to me, that was a big thing. You might say, JP, get a life. 5-year-old JP would tell you to go to hell. I would just say thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate you caring enough to want me to not only get a life, but probably get a life that's better than the current life I have. So thank you. 5-year-old. JP's coming at you like a honey badger from another angle. There were a few fight scenes in that, not between Batman and Superman, but when Batman was fighting just kind of like these other normal guys, and it just seemed like the most choreographed fight scene ever. Now you say, well, JP, fight scenes in movies are choreographed. Yes, but the good ones don't look choreographed. They don't look like you can't tell they're choreographed. I mean, in your head, you know they're choreographed, but when you watch it, you say, oh, that looks like a fight scene, rather than that looks like a choreographed fight scene. So to me, the fight scenes were just choreographed in a way that made them look choreographed with the capital C. Now, luckily, that doesn't get 5-year-old JP furious. He just says, 5-year-old JP probably couldn't tell the difference, but adult JP is like, oh, that's for like $100, I don't know what that movie budget was, but it had to have been well over $100 million. You'd think they could have like made it so it actually looked like Batman was punching the guys. They could have made it so Batman's not blocking their punches before the guys even throw them. They could have made it so the guys aren't just going right to where Batman's fists are. It's like, I'm not a fighter, but if I was in a fight, I wouldn't run to the guy's fist so he could hit me. I wouldn't reach out and give him my hand so he could like grab my wrist and throw me in this beautiful orchestration after he punches someone else in the face, and there's me to grab right there. It doesn't seem like a good fighting technique. So anyway, to me, there was intelligence insultment. Yeah, screw it. We're going to make up some words here. Cutting edge. Pioneering human history tonight. What was it? Oh yeah, there was insultment in the choreographed fight scenes. And then the way Lex Luthor's character was written, I didn't like the writing. I like the acting. Who played him? He was Mark Zuckerberg in the movie, I think it was called The Social Network. Jesse Eisenberg, I think that's his name. But just to be safe, let's just say it was Mark Zuckerberg who played Lex Luthor. So the acting and execution of it, I thought, yeah, great, he did a great job. But who did a job I didn't really approve of. I'm not being heart-centered, I'm being freaking head-centered here. Agreement-based rather than acceptance-based. I can't accept it. The way they wrote Lex Luthor's character, to me, again, seemed out of character to who Lex Luthor is. To me, Lex Luthor is like a, semi-stoic, but he's someone who's put together, like, yes, evil, but highly intelligent, and, like, there's this confidence Lex Luthor has about him. To me, that's one of the most appealing things about the character of Lex Luthor. Sort of like Francis Underwood on House of Cards, if you watch that, which, by the way, that's got to be my TV show of the year. It's not even on TV. It's my Netflix show of the year. I don't watch TV. I don't even have a TV. I watch a computer. Yeah, there was no self-confidence in his character. There were maybe at times, but not a lot of self-confidence. So to me, they did too much like mental instability and emotional instability of this character. It's like, check please. So have I proven my point? It's like I'm going to go on about Batman versus Superman until it's your least favorite movie of 2016. Where's all the unconditional love and acceptance, JP? I don't know. Let's hit some rapid succession highs, lows. What else are we doing? Highs, lows, favorites, least favorites, and lessons learned in 2016. We're going to get to a lesson learned here before too long, but so rapid fire things. My favorite supplement of the year, got to go with two of them, both newly discovered: cordyceps mushrooms and Alpha Brain by Onnit. Cordyceps mushrooms, a bunch of different companies do that, but these two things, Alpha Brain and cordyceps mushrooms, they're both sort of mental enhancers, not in a way that kind of burns you out or depletes you or has a consequential letdown effect that I've ever noticed. And cordyceps mushrooms, if you're wondering, unfortunately, those aren't the ones that make you hallucinate and think your grandmother's chasing you with like a bloody, like sharp, bloody pointed Batman figure in her hand. That would be a terrible dream. It sounds like a dream I would have. Like my dear Nana, who would read Batman comic books to me, there she is chasing me with like this bloody Batman figure. Like, why is he bloody? Did she just what how do you get bloody? Did she hurt my parents? Did she kill a cat with Batman and now she's coming after me? What was I even talking about? I got myself a bloody Batman figure that my grandmother's trying to stab me with. Not in real life, just a nightmare. So regardless, the cordyceps mushrooms aren't the kind that make you hallucinate that. They're non-hallucinogenic, incredibly legal. But anyway, I've enjoyed using those. It's kind of like they give me a similar sense that I get being on caffeine, only it's like I would call it a higher quality sense of mental clarity, whereas with caffeination it feels slightly hollow sometimes, and then with caffeination there's usually a letdown effect. But with cordyceps mushrooms and Alpha Brain, I don't get those negatives, so I like it. I drink caffeine too, so you got to go with that. Moving along, I'll go my favorite YouTuber of the year, Ozzy Man Reviews. Ozzy as in O-Z-Z-Y. Ozzy Man Reviews. And Ozzy is alluding to Aussie, Australia. So this guy's from Australia. He does commentary mostly on other videos, and he does it in just this most Australian way you can possibly imagine. Is he vulgar? Yes. Is there anything educational about the videos? Absolutely not. Is there something incredibly entertaining about them? Absolutely. Is there typically something offensive about the videos? Probably. I would say the videos are probably more for the masculine mindset. Not talking about gender. I'm not going to get anybody in trouble here. But there's vulgarity to him. But he's a wizard about being like the most stereotypical, sort of hard-nosed, smart-ass Australian you can ever find. Check him out if you want. Ozzy Man Reviews on YouTube. Love it. Favorite podcaster of 2016. That's hard to say just one. It really is. 2015, definitely Tim Ferriss. However, it might still be Tim Ferriss, but I feel like I'm in need of just having a new answer. So 2016, I'm going to go Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. I've come to really enjoy hearing him just talk. And just, it's kind of like, you know how, who dissects cadavers? Like medical students? Like whoever it is that dissects cadavers, like, the reason why they like to dissect cadavers is they like to see what's in the human being. To me, listening to Joe Rogan talk, it's like witnessing a psyche dissection. It's just awesome to like hear, and it doesn't have to be Joe Rogan. He just happens to be a podcaster who's prolific, and I think he's also a very deep human being. But it's awesome to witness someone essentially dissecting their own psyche, they're slicing it open and spilling it out in front of you, luckily in a way that doesn't harm them. So Joe Rogan podcast, right on. And I will say this, my favorite comedian this year, I've been a fan of his. However, 2016, he took the top step on the podium. Probably the first year he's been on the top step of the podium. And his name is Bill Burr. The guy is just a genius. Is he demented? I like to hope so. He is an absolute genius. If you haven't checked out Bill Burr's stuff, I know he's got a couple, maybe more than a couple, maybe a few, maybe not, specials on Netflix, but that guy is just a wizard. Bill Burr. What else? I think we're probably at a point where we should wrap stuff up. I just want to make sure. Let me throw two more things at you. I'll get to my biggest lesson learned to close this out, but before that, let's hit the opposite end of the spectrum. What irritated me most about 2016? I would say expectations. Specifically, unspoken expectations, and really specifically, hidden expectations. So how I experienced this in 2016, I would say honestly quite a bit, is people, and I won't name names, mostly because about threw up in my mouth, mostly because I want to, mostly because I can't remember names, but also I want to be respectful. And it's really not about the other person, it's about me. I'll own it in a second, but first I'll project out. You know, I'd experience a lot of people give things to me. And sometimes they're like physically things, and other times they're doing things for me. And it's like, oh, thank you. And then the hidden expectations come out that aren't so hidden anymore. So a couple weeks later, a couple months later, asking me to do things that are just, in my opinion, very unreasonable. And I know I'm being very vague, and it's going to stay that way, but I will say this. I'll just say what I most enjoy is if someone's going to give me a gift or do something for me in order to try to get me to do something for them in return, just freaking say it up front. Please. Is there a chance I'll say no? Absolutely. Probably our odds are I'll say no. I'm just in a position. If you held my office, you would know. But I'm in a position where I'm. There's more. There's more of me that's asked than there is me. To be honest, like it would literally cannibalize me if I said yes to everything that's asked of me. So I realize I'm sitting with crappy posture, so screw it, I will. So that's why I say, like, odds are I'd probably say no, but it's like, just please be honest and transparent. If you're doing something for me or to me or giving something to me because you want me to do something in return, when when something's given to me, it's like, oh, JB, that's just because you're awesome. Take it. It's like, okay. And then when the unspoken favor is obligated on, I won't say called upon, but it's obligated on, and they call up that favor, like I don't say yes. It's like I don't like to buy into seduction. It's like, I don't like to buy into trickery. And in fact, I've learned, especially over 2016, to the point where now, even when people want to give me things, and I'm talking of like mostly people who don't know me, they reach out and like, I got this, I want to give it to you or do this for you. Oftentimes I won't take it. Am I jaded? Maybe. Am I, in a sort of a defensive, protective posture? Maybe. Do I have some work to do on this? Absolutely. And I think part of, if I now pretend to own it, what really irritates me when I'm projecting a sense of irritation onto people who impose hidden expectations onto me, it would be a couple things. One, an irritation with myself that I didn't see it. An irritation with myself that maybe I did see it and had a sense like, there's maybe like a hidden agenda here, but I'm gonna okay, I'll consent into this hidden agenda little dynamic anyway. And then I resent myself for having known better, but doing it anyway. And sometimes just straight up shaming myself. So brought to you by shame, because I didn't see it coming. And then other times, maybe feeling irritated, resentful of myself, maybe shaming of myself, because I didn't have the courage in the initial conversation to voice my concern, or primarily in the sense of just asking, what do you expect of me in return? It's like it's a slightly awkward conversation, and it's a damn necessary one. It approaches levels of vulnerability. It's something that calls for transparency, and that's uncomfortable, but freaking necessary. And I would dare say that's part of real communication. So yeah, man, expectations. It's like, it's kind of just a make-believe example. That's not actually make-believe, but I'm saying it's make-believe. But it's not make-believe. It's like, did you get the card I sent you, JP? It's like, yeah, I got it. Well, why didn't you thank me for it? I sent it to you. It's because the card didn't require any talking in order for me to get it out of my mailbox, open it, and read it. It's like, oh, well, I think the least you could do is just thank me for the card I sent. It's like, then do me a favor and don't send me the card. If you're sending the card with the expectation that you're going to get something from me in return, specifically as something that's not in a spoken communication agreement, then please don't send the card. Like, to me, that's not giving. Yeah, to me, the illusion of giving with hidden expectations, really have to stress that. Expectations, it can be awesome. But hidden expectations, that's what's getting a little 5-year-old JP with a bloody sharp Batman a little fired up here. The hidden expectations, those are, that's what I'm talking about. So it's like, yeah, don't send the card. That's not giving. It's like stealing. It's like, it's like the sleight of hand. It's like, I'm going to distract you with this thing that I'm quote unquote giving you so that I can then take what I want from you without asking for it. Is JP bitter? Check my pulse. Feels like it. But yeah, I'd rather, instead of sitting here pretending like I'm not in some ways challenged by dealing with hidden expectations, I'd rather just be honest, like, yeah, it's messy, muddy part that I'm learning to deal with more. So, and I'd rather be honest about it and talk about it instead of pretending it's not there and then therefore having it fester and get worse. It's weird. But yeah, I get worse. So then let's close. A little bit of a positive note. JP, could you be any more pessimistic? Well, you should have tuned in when I was talking about the Batman versus Superman movie. And maybe you were here for that. If you were, thank you for being here for that. Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out what I would call the most transformative experience of my 2016. I got to share two more things. So the most transformative experience of 2016, I would honestly say, I mean, there's been a lot of great things, but as far as like an experience encapsulated in like a short time, not like 3 months worth of a transition, it would be the Tony Robbins event that I went to, UPW, aka Unleash the Power Within. I went there in Dallas. I was very honored to actually be invited there by Tony as a guest, and it was freaking phenomenal. I went in there with kind of high expectations. Speaking of expectations, do you think I need to own my crap a little bit more? JP, you're pretty irritated with other people's hidden expectations, and now you're talking about your expectations. Yep. I guess I'm doing a little projecting onto people. So yeah, I went in there with like pretty high expectations. Like, oh, this guy is supposed to be awesome. And my expectations were absolutely shattered in an unbelievable way. Completely exceeded. I got in touch with what I would call, amongst other things, I would call it a primal passion that's like at a cellular, physiological level that I've not really been in touch with in my life. And here it is over 6 months later, and I'm still connected to it. So it's not just like I'm at this 4-day event and it's awesome. I feel good when I'm here. Then I go home and things kind of reset to the status quo. Absolutely not. Unless I'm just delusional, and I'm definitely delusional, but I don't think I'm delusional about this. Unless I'm delusional enough to think that I'm not delusional about this, but I am delusional about this. But I don't think I'm delusional about this. I'm still experiencing a powerful shift where I'm connected to what I would call some of the fires of life, passion. It's awesome. Thank you, Tony Robbins. So that was a very transformative experience in my life. And then I will end with this. I would say my biggest lesson learned in 2016 is be a part of something bigger than myself. Period. Lesson learned. Nana would be proud. Batman in hand. He's happy. So I don't think it was the whole year, but for a good part of the year, I would just have these words come to me. JP, be a part of something bigger than you. The way for you to keep growing. And I think in this sense, I was meaning growing and sort of like call it the professional sense, even though I feel weird calling myself a professional. It's like, what I do feels like play for me. It's incredibly enjoyable. So in order to keep growing in the professional sense, the way for you to grow, JP, says this message inside of me that kept coming up, is be a part of things bigger than just you. Don't just try to be the one-man show anymore like you've been your whole career, which has served me super well. But it's now time for you to grow by letting yourself be a part of things that are bigger than you. So I'd been operating under this, what I would call, and there's great merit to it, I don't want to just shit on myself. Yet, to a degree, I'd been operating under this illusion of self-sufficiency that I think had a deeper reality of justifying disconnection. So, in other words, a way that I would stay disconnected from people, mostly in the sense of disconnected from receiving genuine help and support. I'm not talking about the hidden agenda expectation kind of help and support. I'm talking about real, genuine help, support. I would block myself from receiving that under the illusion of I'm self-sufficient. I can do absolutely everything by myself. I can do more than everything by myself. Even the things I can't do by myself, I can do them by myself. So that's the whole mantra I'd been living under in the professional sense. And honestly, it worked for a while. It worked for a long while. But this year, I finally started to, I would guess not tell myself the message, but finally started to listen to the message that I think had been being told to me all along, which was be a part of things greater than yourself. So that's allowed me to build what I would call a core team of people who work with me. Karen's one of them, who I mentioned earlier in this broadcast. So it's kind of like, exponentiating, there's some mathematical equation. I'm going to pretend to be intelligent for a second. Don't buy into it. It's just an illusion. Some mathematical equation that says whenever they say like waves, whenever waves are in sync with each other, their power is the square of their sum. So if you have one wave, it's like a power of like whatever the power of that one wave is. But if you have four waves, it's exponentially powerful. It's not, the power isn't 4. The power is the square of the sum. The sum is 4. Square that, it's 16. So you start to get exponentially more powerful when you combine yourself. What I'm finding, this may not be your truth, when I combine myself with like-hearted people, not just to hang out, but to combine myself with like-hearted people to receive their freaking support. One of the ways that I've sort of lived my life that hasn't really, I would say it's not serving me now, is I don't receive support. But that's too vulnerable. I'm just going to be like this. I'm not going to receive support. However, receiving support has, in my opinion, allowed me to experience exponential levels of growth, which has been a huge, huge, huge lesson learned, probably the biggest lesson learned in 2016. So long story short, if I pretend it's all about me, the way I grow isn't through me. It's by becoming a part of something bigger than me. That something bigger than me, that seems different than me. But when I become a part of it, I think it helps me realize more of me, helps me express more of me, and helps me exponentially leverage the power that other people, other miraculous human beings can offer. I've been very defended against receiving support from other people. I don't know exactly why, other than to say I have been. In fact, I think I do know exactly why. I don't know about exactly why. I think I know why. Which is, if I am in a position where I receive support, then if that support is taken away, I won't feel rejected. Did I say that right? If I'm in a position where I deny support and that support's taken away, I won't feel rejected. But if I receive support, I'm also receiving connection from the person giving it to me. And I'm talking about like human support, not just like, here's money or here's like a stool to sit on to support you physically. But no, like real heartfelt support. If I receive that, there will come a day when that support's not there. Maybe that person's not psychologically available. Maybe they leave the planet. Maybe they just don't have the inner resources to share that support with me on a given day. Or maybe they just make up a story that says, I don't like JP anymore. So nonetheless, there will come a day when that support isn't there for me. And do you know what that feels like? To me, that feels like rejection. And that's very painful. And that's part of freaking life. I think we can only accept people close to us, close to our hearts, to the degree that we're willing to be rejected. One of my favorite authors, James Hollis, who I probably mention every freaking conversation I have, he says that if you live long enough, everybody in your life will leave you. Like, if you think about it, like, oh, wow, that's freaking true. If I live long enough, like, I'll actually outlive everybody in my life. So they'll leave me through death, or they'll leave me through choice. So I think what I'm realizing about myself is refusing to receive genuine, heartfelt support from other miraculous creatures called human beings allowed me to feel like I was protecting myself from rejection. And it probably was protecting me from rejection, and it was blocking me from connection, and it was blocking me from what I would dare say is methods the universe, if you will, had in play that it wanted to give me support. But there I am, the hungry person, starving and absolutely refusing the food that's being fed to him or her or it, the starving person. So with that said, I appreciate you hanging out with me, being along for the journey. This might be your second journey with me today. The first take of this broadcast went a little haywire as I thought I'd be a hot shot and do this from my sauna. But apparently the phones that I thought would overheated. So if you've been along with me for both of these broadcasts tonight, thank you. And if it's just a second or a couple minutes, thank you for sharing some of your attention with me. And about a day and a half, so on Friday, I'll be jetting off to Costa Rica, Central America. I'll be in Costa Rica hanging out for the International Tribe Design event. Shortly thereafter, I'll be in San Francisco for the Yoga Journal Live conference. I'll be speaking, I'll be doing some comedy, doing some speaking from my heart. So if you can join me for that, love to have you. I think that's January 13th, again, Yoga Journal Live in San Francisco. There is a link on my website on the events page. You can check that out if you care to. And the point of that, where I was going with that, is, if I get a chance, I'm going to do a broadcast from Costa Rica and my experience traveling, especially in different countries. Ooh, shaking the table. Sorry about that. Sometimes the Wi-Fi connection is non-existent. Sometimes the phone connection is non-existent. So I know that's a little bit unpredictable. So I might talk to you while I'm in Costa Rica. And if I don't, then just know I miss you. And hope you have yourself a good New Year's celebration, however you celebrate New Year's. Last year, for New Year's, I was in bed by 7 p.m. I actually just landed in Kauai, my favorite place I visited in all of 2016. And so incredibly jet lagged. And I was in bed by 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve. So whatever you do, no matter how hard you celebrate or no matter how hard you just don't celebrate, the one request I would have for you is be safe. And I would also request, if you're willing to accept my request, for you to wear a smile on your face for at least a few minutes. With that said, I look forward to talking with y'all soon.